By the Rat King, there's 2,000 of us! I know exactly what to do to celebrate. Feet pics! What, is that not what you wanted? Okay, well, I might have a better idea too. So let's grab our surplus rifle and a cheeky Glock 19, we'll get into why later, and head straight into a raid while I tell you what's up. And straight into Night Shift in Ashen Mesa. The game's Marilyn Monroe. By that I mean it's beautiful and highly exploitable. And yeah, I just skipped Tunnel A. I recommend you do that too. So, as to why we're out here right now, well, for one, it's to prove that you can go all the way with just the surplus rifle, as you can tell from the quest list. But also, it goes back to my guide to the rifles of the Forever Winter and the comments section. Huzzah! See, a lot of you didn't really understand what I meant when I said the surplus rifle is a Draco. And at least one of you understood a little too well and felt called out. And that is actually the point of today's video. To share a little knowledge. Some cursed knowledge. About our prolific little pal Malfoy here. And if you're a Slavic viewer out there, well, maybe prepare for some emotional trauma. For you see, this tale begins in the 1990s, in what was once the Great Eastern Bloc, the Soviet Union, now fallen. And you see, it was a magical time where if you had enough money, you could buy literally anything. Anything. And anyone. Corrupt power vacuums are fun that way. Though as the Iron Curtain was lifting, a cloud fell over the east, as a tragedy befell its people. Some say the greatest tragedy since Gorbachev fumbled the ball. American purchasing agents arrived! Because you see, they had the money, and they combed through every depot, every stockpile, and they bought all of it. Not just in Russia, Ukraine, Poland, even technically non-aligned places like Yugoslavia. We looted it all! But you see, there was a problem. The AK platform was highly desirable. I mean, up until this point, you had to kill a Vietnamese dude in order to get one in the United States. Seriously, the only other AK option was the Chinesium ones that started getting imported in the late 80s, which were still fairly expensive. Like, once you account for inflation, these are all over $1,000. And let's just say I prefer my Izmash to a Norinco. But, they could not be legally imported into the United States. So a solution had to be found. And whether by cutting torch or grinder, those guns were hacked to pieces, chopped up, having their parts removed, ripped apart, the receivers trashed, thrown to scrap, and all hauled back in the great American corpse wagon, baby. Because while we couldn't import the rifles, we could import the scrap metal and rebuild them, which is exactly what happened for years and years. And because all of these rifles had to be rebuilt anyway, a lot of these guns, well, let's just say they weren't exactly rebuilt in their original configurations. But before we get into that, we really need to talk about the AKS-74U. Because a lot of people think that's what the surplus rifle is. And here, you can look at them side by side. Oh, alright, I'll use a clearer picture than Gundog. Bye, boy. And there are very clear differences right off the bat. But this isn't just a stylistic choice. Just because these two guns are similar does not mean the surplus rifle is a 74U. It's a Draco, and we're gonna get into that in a minute. But what is the AKS-74U? It's, well, it's a submachine gun. I know that just triggered some people who are like, it's a carbine! 'Tis the Soviet M4! Unfortunately, it's just not. Rule 1. Firearms language and terminology is, well, let's just say squidgy, even in the English language, and it does not translate well. And a lot of the categorizations we've come up with in the modern English internet do not map well. One, just internationally into other cultures, and two, to how a lot of weapons are designed and implemented, like how they're used and what their goal is. Which is why a lot of video games and like Vapid top 10 lists were listed as an assault rifle. Which it isn't, even though it's an intermediate cartridge gun. And intermediate cartridge itself is already a really loose categorization, with no true definition. But the 74U, from the moment it started entering the design phase, all the way through to troop issuance, it is a submachine gun. It has a larger but less adjustable and simpler rear sight, which is easier for less experienced troops to use in fast and dirty close-in firefights. It's super short, primarily so that you can give it to people like vehicle crews and it'll fit. In fact, it's so short they had to put a muzzle booster on it. Yeah, that muzzle device right there at the front, that's not an aesthetic choice. The gun doesn't work without it. Either it or a suppressor, as the back pressure generated by one of them will also do the same job. Because, let me explain why real quick, for people who don't know. So it all starts off with this, the metallic cartridge. Now, only this little bit here, right at the end, is actually a bullet. This is a cartridge case, and it's hollow and filled with an explosive called gunpowder. Now that explosive is a solid, but it really wants to be a gas once it's ignited. This part of the firearm is called the barrel. And the back of the barrel here is the chamber, and that's where this guy goes. Now a firing pin, which is a little impact tool, hits this contact-sensitive explosive here at the back, detonating the main explosive, which is the gunpowder. And that gunpowder propels this bullet down the length of the barrel. Now, as that high-pressure gas pushes it we reach this point. And this is called your gas port, and it's just a hole in the barrel pointing up. And from that hole, which then goes back, we hit a gas piston in this tube here. This is it. Simple piston head, it works exactly like the piston in any combustion car. Now that high pressure gas pushes on the piston head and operates the firearm, but that takes time to do, and that time is accounted for without the pressure dropping by having the bullet blocking up the other end of the barrel here. However, obviously in shorter guns, this doesn't exist anymore. Thus the booster device. And by time, this all takes place over the course of a couple of milliseconds, and this is just a sheet metal tube. Notice these holes right here. Let's see, bring them closer. The gas actually vents out to the atmosphere right at this point. And you'll see why I bring that up when we get back to our in-game model. Which, yes, does mean the system's only under pressure until the piston reaches this point, and then momentum makes up the rest of the energy for the movement. And yes, if you're thinking about doing anything wacky with an in-game model, you do need that gas tube there, because otherwise it won't line up right, and won't go together. Getting back into the game and our topic, and I'll try to stay on track because, oh wow, there's already 100 more of you. It's worth noting that as a submachine gun, the AKS-74U is... it's pretty shit, to be honest. And it's all about the 545x39 cartridge. Out of such a short barrel, you get really reduced muzzle velocity, and it's a very lightweight bullet. But it still has all of the powder that it would be using if it was in a full-size rifle. So we're not really getting any lethality increase over a pistol caliber gun. We get a whole lot more noise, loud noises, light pollution in terms of muzzle blast, and just actual concussive effect firing it, as well as generally increased recoil. And while that all sounds bad, it was the exact right gun for the Soviet Union. And the reason is logistics. The AKS-74U, as well as the AK-74 and the RPK-74, all use the exact same cartridge and can share the exact same magazines, even though the RPKs were generally larger. Which means you can issue out ammo in magazines en masse and anyone can use it. If anyone runs dry, it can be shared throughout the squad. You can literally rip the magazines out of a rear echelon guy's hands and give it to an infantryman if it comes to it. Because the 74SU primarily went to vehicle crews and rear echelon guys. Because their job isn't fighting. That's why they were given the little submachine gun. They still need a weapon in case they get ambushed, and it needs to be something small and compact so it'll fit in the vehicle and it's easy to use. But because it shares the magazine and cartridge as the actual infantryman's weapons, you don't need a whole separate logistics chain to supply them. Factories producing hundreds of thousands of magazines and millions of rounds of ammunition that might or might not even get to the guys who need it, because you're gonna need a second truck to carry all of their ammo for them if you do that. Just to supply a weapon that, in a perfect world, would never be used! And logistics win wars, which is why the 74SU is kind of a triumph, even though it also sucks. But lest we forget, the surplus rifle is not an AKS-74U. Getting back to those parts kits I mentioned, there are some funny quirks about US law relating to firearms and their configurations. You see, you couldn't have an AKS-74U in the US under most circumstances. Calm down, SPR crowd. Because we have laws regarding the length of the barrel on a firearm. It can't be too short, otherwise it's bad and scary and hurts people's fifis. Unless the gun can't have a stock on it, then it's a pistol, so long as, well, you can't cut the stock off of a gun that exists. You can build a gun like it's a rifle, but without a stock on it, and then it's a pistol. And then according to the ATF, the barrel can't be too long, because that would be too scary. And then you can have AKS-74U we have at home, kinda, aka the Draco. And they were sold for dirt cheap. Because they're shit. Let me just dispel another legend, or misconception rather. One of the worst things you can possibly do to gimp the ever-loving shit out of a gun is to take the stock off of it. But unfortunately, some people think that's really cool, and it's... Alright guys, I'm just gonna show you Camo Too Funny. He can have the ad revenue off the video, just watch this.
Come here. I ain't bouncing out fully, nigga. Pay me that Drake, nigga. Come here. You nigga have track stars, nigga. Bella blowing Drake. Oh, you smoking who? Boy, fuck the dude, but we put him in the grave. Bounce style wood, they don't know how to fuck them niggas, they got away. Next time, I'ma hop out for the box, the nigga, it's DOA. Come here. These niggas don't never shoot back. Boy, we really pimp, build the ass in the street, bitch.
And yeah, I brought the Glock with a stendo mag as a reference to this music video. Just like our buddy Too Funny there, I too am carrying a Draco and a way superior weapon in my back pocket. And while I am clowning on him here, or well, kind of just letting him clown on himself, just to cut off any weirdness because we know how the internet is, it ain't because he's black or young. It's because he gets his weapon knowledge through pop culture primarily. And if you've been learning something so far, statistically that includes you too. Now, another fun fact about the Draco is the original guns were made entirely using those parts kits I mentioned, which the eagle-eyed among you have already probably noticed uses the original AK-74 gas system and not the AKS-74U gas system. The shorter guns would come later, and they made these things work by overboring the gas ports up in the gas block, which means they just drilled it out super big, permanently overgassing the gun, making them run hotter and dirtier forever. But remember, the barrel can't be too long if it's a pistol. But over time, people built them all, or at least most of them, and in huge numbers, mostly unregistered ghost guns, of course, which is incidentally entirely legal. Welcome to the US of A. So long as you build it yourself. You only have to register guns you're going to sell. But the kits started to dry up, so companies started producing their own parts. But Dracos, well, let's just say the average Draco enjoyer is not exactly blessed with a large cash stack. So these parts had to be cheap. Very cheap. As in, they started casting all the parts cheap, which is really bad. These guns just fall apart, frankly. And the ones that don't still have weird dimensional issues. And honestly, the prevalence of cheap Dracos is part of why the AK actually had a pretty nasty reputation of being a cheap commie shit stick for a while in the US once they started kind of flooding the market. And they were really cheap for a while because we paid almost nothing for those parts kits. The bribes must have been cheap. The quality issue was more of a domestic problem. Not that anyone cared. Which has kind of recorrected over the last few years. I think we've dispelled both the myths that the AK is terrible and inaccurate and that it's the most reliable gun ever pretty conclusively. Now, because this is the subscribers special, love you all by the way, I appreciate that you're here for the weirdness.
Not everyone responds to weird.
I'm gonna tell you exactly why the surplus rifle sucks. I mean, not from a gameplay standpoint, really. I'm doing all right with it, as you can see, but just conceptually. As I've already mentioned, it doesn't have a stock, which is a way bigger deal than people who don't have firearms experience ever acknowledge. So allow me to explain it.
Welcome to the esteemed Ligma University.
So, a stock. It's comprised of a few different components. You got a grip, which might be part of it, or maybe a separate piece. Then you've got the comb and the butt. Let's start at the butt. This is what intersects with your shoulder on the rifle. Sometimes they're padded, often they're not. And one thing that video games never get right is that you really need to suck this fucker right into your shoulder pocket as hard as you physically can. Devs are always afraid of models clipping, so they don't want them to intersect too closely, so they always have, like, rifles being held loosely out in front, which is a terrible mistake. This thing was just gonna hit you and hurt your shoulder if you do that. This needs to be as tight to your body as physically possible to work. And when it is, not only does it help you control recoil by pushing recoil into your body rather than being contained out in tension by your arms out front of you, but because you have 3 points of contact, a stock, a hand here, and then another hand out here on the forend, you're more stable, so your sights are way less wonky and wobbly. You can actually fucking aim. But that's not the only way your body interacts with the stock, because there's also this part, the comb, where your face goes. If you put a raised or adjustable pad on it, we call it a cheek riser, because this is where your cheek hits. And we set this point of contact so that your eye is perfectly lined up with your sights as soon as you put your face here. Which, as we've mentioned before, is vital if you're using a magnified optic, because your eye has to be in the exact right spot in order to see through the damn thing. Now, we know the surplus rifle uses a AKS-74U trunnion because the rear of it looks like this rather than the flat back of a regular Draco or something more like this off of a 100 series AK. Which means we could put a stock on it, but the gods deny us! Getting back to wrecking the Europans in Frozen Swamp, I'd like to point out our next design feature, which is, well, the muzzle device or lack thereof, which tells us we're looking at a Draco gas system here. Yes, that is a flat downgrade over the original AKS-74U system, and it is mechanically different, slightly. Then we have the handguard. Bring back our comparative images again. Notice how in the real guns, there's a gap between the upper and lower handguards. Those are 2 separate pieces. But why does the gap exist? Well, they're air vent holes. That piston and tube get really fucking hot, because, well, you can imagine that's basically the exhaust system off a car. And do you know what else uses fully enclosed handguards on AK systems? And it causes a problem, too. Listen, I know there's gonna be a lot to see in this video, but watch the guy in the back. Oh.
Damn!
Oh. Bruh. Uh-huh. Eventually our surplus rifle's gonna get hot and split like that too. And then there's the magazine, the biggest gameplay hurdle for the surplus rifle. Now I know a lot of people keep wondering, why can't I just put a regular AK magazine in it? They're the same gun, right? Right. Friends, take a close look at that magazine. Now take a close look at this one. Neither are AK magazines. Those are Saiga Sporter magazines, baby, and they are dimensionally different. I won't go into the details. These magazines were designed for US import restrictions again, because these Saiga rifles, these are assault weapons ban era rifles. You couldn't import a gun that could accept a magazine that was larger than 10 rounds. So the guns came in with specialty magazines and then got converted to regular AK magazines after they arrived. But a regular AK mag won't fit, and they are all limited to 10 rounds only. And then finally, let's talk about our optic real quick. Popping over to the shooting range, since FunDog fixed it, yay, I can make more weapon videos. But to see what I'm talking about, we're gonna have to zoom in real close. Do you notice anything around the edges of this optic? Down by the rail. That's right, a fucking gap. This thing's not actually attached via the rail. Presumably, it's just glued on. I'm sure that'll be fine. And that, in conclusion, is why the surplus rifle sucks. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because do you know why I told you all of that backstory? That's right. It was just the preamble for my theory crafting video! I propose that far, far to the east of Los Angeles, within the bounds of modern Europa, Americans have never changed. I mean, we at least know from Pyro that the flag's still a potent symbol. But I mean it, culturally, we haven't changed a bit. We're filled with the morally superior arms collectors and the overbearing fascistic gun grabbers, which both explains Europa's military dominance and how shit it is. And the people of Europa still want AKs. But you can't buy them from the Euruscans. So here's my proposal. AKs are being chopped up and sent back to Europa, probably for basically nothing. And then they're being reassembled into gimp to shit, limited capacity little Draco pistols. Well, little, they're huge for pistols. And based off their prevalence all the way in Los Angeles on the West Coast, these things are probably everywhere. In the grim dark future of the forever winter, every household has a Draco. And clearly we've gotten over our 5.45 bias. But the surplus rifles are capable of full auto fire. So as a silver lining, the NFA has clearly been repealed. So why no stock then? Well, I think Warhammer got really, really popular. And as we all know, Games Workshop can't design a weapon for shit. They have no idea what real ones look like. So lost in the 80s action hero bullshit sauce that they are. On top of that, just for flavor, I think Camo's career took the fuck off in this timeline. Are the Europans all culturally addicted to mumble rap? The fucking horror! Now, as for the meta reason why the surplus rifle exists. I was talking on the Discord server and someone thought it was a result of the game wipe system, just as a way to always have a gun that's available when you lose progress, but I don't fully agree. I think what we're looking at is the residual element of the customization system. More Fallout 4 than Foreverwinter, to be honest, where everything's starting off as this weird little base unit that you build up from, even though guns don't really work that way. Like, kind of, but not really. And I'm willing to bet that the Saiga, the Draco, and the AK-74U were all the inspirations, and that whoever modeled it probably has a knowledge of firearms closer to Camo 2 Funny than Paul Harrell.
If you're watching me, I'm dead.
We miss you, Paul.
But let's talk about it from a gameplay standpoint, and you know what? The surplus rifle really isn't so bad. The 10-round magazine does really limit it, like you're gonna be reloading way more than you want to be. But it is in 5.45, so it can kill almost all infantry in 3 rounds to the head. So that's 3 infantrymen and 1 nowhere dude to stagger per magazine. You can handle a small squad with that, assuming you don't miss. And you can always mag dump all 10 rounds into 1 dude in full auto if you just need to stagger someone and run the fuck away. And here we are at Los Angeles, the last map on our quest list. Ooh, night shift. Downtown LA is a great night shift. It's actually like a night fight. And to make things real easy on us, it's mostly filled with Eurasian assaulters and their silly glowy helmets. Back to the surplus rifle, on top of its decent enough damage output and controllability, additionally the optic is very wide and very clear, so it's very easy to see things. So while it is a bit silly, this is a very good starter weapon, especially since you get free 5.45 from Aramaki and Bunko. I'd take the surplus rifle over the surplus shotgun, or something like the BKS or the C96, like it's not terrible. Look, there's some of the silly glowy assaulters now. Like I said, 3 headshots and they're down. They're pretty slow though, and easy to outmaneuver. Just as a little tip, leave the gun on full auto and pull off the Mozambique mag dump where you kind of start in their chest and let the recoil run it up towards their head. So they're pretty manageable, but you still need to know when to run away. They do have some pretty hefty damage output. I sure am glad I picked up some medkits down in the tunnels. Normally with the tiny rig, I say you don't even need to bring any medkits with you, but it's easy to get sloppy in these later maps like I have been. Jason, look, not only do their helmets glow, they put flashlights on them too. Like, what in the GWAT? Do not have a flashlight on you? Not at night, you're gonna get yourself shot. By me, mostly. No, I'm talking shit. I'm mostly running away right now. The true rat experience, right? Back to the surplus rifle, on top of its decent enough damage output and controllability, honestly, the only thing actually holding the surplus rifle back is its lack of customization. Give us some muzzle device and handguard options, let us add a stock on, let us maybe change out the optic, and man, fuck, this sure is a pretty game, isn't it? The art and vibes are just, on point. Oh hey, look, not assaulters, Europans. You guys can go fuck yourselves too. Beep, boop, pop. That's what you get for liking mumble rap, which for anyone wondering, I say with love. Listen, I entered into music as a metalhead. There's shit that I listen to like this. which to me sounds perfectly clear, like it's beautifully enunciated and great music, but I know to a lot of people I just like turned on some heavy machinery. I realize I don't have a drill, so we're gonna have to go over to the other extract. I'm running out of ammo too, so And you know, it's these kind of situations that are the reason why I don't main Bagman. Like, he's just too slow and he gets tired way too quickly. It's not fun traveling with him on the larger maps. At least not to me. At least Gunhead can keep the pace up. Ooh, look, a mech fight. We're gonna stay out of that. Anyways, yeah, I feel like the surplus rifle is better than most people give it credit for. Like, it's not great, it's not good, but it's okay. And honestly, a lot of the reason why people don't like it is probably just the stigma of it being like the base model gun. Like, it's free and unlimited, so it's not special. There's no getting attached to something you can't really lose, which I don't know if you can rectify that. It just kind of is what it is. All right, and we're getting near the end here. Let's just empty out the last magazines. Man, it's gotta really suck being these cyborg torsos. Like, you're just sitting there being stat padding, right? Has anyone actually died to one? I don't think so. Nah, 2 left. All right, we'll kill them with the Glock. That's 3 Glock kills. What did that run end up at? 55. 52 of those were with the surplus rifle. Not bad, not bad. But you know, I was playing pretty conservatively, not aggressively. I could probably do better. I should also test the gun without the tiny rig, huh? All right, let's do another raid. And what goes with the surplus rifle better than 1,000 rounds of surplus ammo, right? Yeah. And I'll actually bring some medkits this time, because I'm gonna actually be trying to start fights. So let's try it out, rats. How far can you get with nothing but a surplus rifle? Calm down, Neos. That's not a dog whistle. Not bad. Over 50% improvement over the last one. I guess that really goes to show you just how much of an advantage the tiny rig is in terms of just buffing your lethality by letting you get in close to things. But that raid was a special one because it gave me just enough construction foam to finally get the bar. Hell yeah, 5.2 million credits spent, and now we just gotta wait 2 days. Well, I guess that'll be part of our next adventure. Have a good one, rats. I hope 2026 finds you well. Bye-bye! Actually, before I fully head out, non-American viewers particularly probably noticed that I flashed a lot of freedom here. And while some of them have military origins, most don't. And while guntism itself is as common a special interest as, well, trains, frankly, that's a pretty big gap in most people's knowledge base, since they focus on the military stuff, which means they're ignorant about most guns, actually. So here's my challenge to you. Can you name all the guns I showed in this video? Good luck!